Hey guys, welcome to Mad Does Stuff. This week I'm picking up where I left off a few weeks ago, where I plasterboarded a room, and I'm going to plaster a ceiling. So if you like the sound of that, stick around. Remember, while this intro's on, drop me a like and subscribe to my channel. So, I am plastering a ceiling today. I will say right from the off, I am a DIYer, I am not a pro. I've done a bit of plastering in the house before, in fact I've done a lot of plastering in my house before. It works for the standard that I want to get from it, but obviously the pros probably do it better, they've got much more experience, but I'm just going to run you through what I'm up to. Leave me a comment if you like what I've done, leave me a comment if you don't like what I've done. But I'll be running through the way I'm going to do it and we'll show you the results. So, but we can't do that in here, so let's pop over to my spare room.
Okay, so tools I'm going to be using today. I've got a bucket of water, which I'm going to be mixing up in. I've got around 5 litres, that's probably enough for what I want for my ceiling. It's a relatively small room, so I'm not using the whole bag. I've got a smaller bucket here, which I use to clean off my tools after I've used them. I've got a clean bucket of water here in the black one. That's so I can run in my corners and wet down the walls when I'm trialing. I've got a trowel and a hawk. That'll be what I'm putting the plaster on the ceiling with. I've got a bucket trowel, which will get the plaster out of the bucket. I've got a mixing paddle, a new one because I ruined my other one when I was doing the rendering outside. That'll go in my SDS drill, allow me to mix the plaster. A couple of paint brushes, one for cleaning my tools, the other for putting water on the walls. I've also got some plaster, and this is just some thistle multi-finish, which is good for skim coats. And I've got some fibre tape, or scrim tape, or whatever you want to call it, but that goes over the joins. So that's the tool set I'm going to be using today. Also got a set of steps because I'm doing the ceiling and it's above head height. First job though, bit of prep for the ceiling, is to put some fibre tape on all the joins in the ceiling. So let's go on with that. So I've scrimmed up all of my joins. You can see in the ceiling there, and I've run in all the corners. I'll be doing this wall later on a later video, so you'll be able to see what I'm doing with that. But I've scrimmed up in all the corners, along all the edges, where the plasterboard joins the ceiling, and that is now ready for me to start plastering on. So, about ready to go on the plastering. I've got my scrim tape on, I've got my mix ready to be mixed, but I just thought I'd run you through the process I'm going to be going through. So, I'm going to be visiting the wall 5 times. First time, first coat, get that on the wall. Second time is the second coat, get that on the wall. Third time is for a bit of flattening, where I'm just going to make it smooth, fill in any of the areas that I didn't catch on the first and second one. Fourth is a bit of smoothing, and then the fifth one is just a final trial off, just to make sure it's proper smooth and a nice finish. So that's my 5. I'll run you through those, you'll see those as I'm going. So yeah, let's count them down.
Mixing up the plaster is a simple case of adding powder to clean water. As I mentioned earlier, I'm using 5.5 or 5 to 5.5 litres of clean water. That'll probably make me enough plaster to do the ceiling that I've got. I've estimated that, or I've just guessed it out basically, based on like what I know from a bit of plastering I've done around the house. But essentially I think that will give me enough. It's probably around half a bag, just under half a bag of plaster. And you just keep mixing, keep adding powder, until you get the consistency you want. I like my first coat to be not too thick, not too thin, bit yogurty, if you like, but something that doesn't slide off the hawk or the trowel and sticks to the ceiling. I remember after you've finished the mix, give all your tools a bit of a clean off, because you don't want any plaster just drying on your tools. Try and keep it as clean as possible. With the first coat of plaster, I'm looking to just get it on the ceiling. I'm not looking for anything too smooth on this first pass. I just want the first coat to get on and covered, so I'm not chasing myself around. I'm trying to keep it as flat as I reasonably can, so no like big ridges or lumps or anything like that. But generally there'll be trowel marks, there'll be unevenness on this first pass. It's just about getting it on the ceiling. I've got maybe a couple of scoops of plaster on my hawk at any one time. I'm just putting that on the trowel and just working in a sort of sweeping motion over my head, really, until it's all on. I'm starting in one corner of the room, working across, and then sort of working back from there. So like a typewriter, start at the left, work along to the right, go back to the left, work along to the right, until I've completed the first coat of the ceiling.
Okay, first coat is on. I've gone all the way around and covered the ceiling in the first coat. You can see the trowel, there's quite a few trowel marks on there. I'm not too bothered about that. I'm just going to get the second coat on. In terms of timing between the first coat and the second coat, I work quite slowly. I guess if you're new, you probably will as well. So I'd suggest that after your first coat is on, you clean your tools, get your second mix on, because it'll probably be ready to go.
Second coat starts with a mix again, essentially mixing it up in exactly the same way. I'm making slightly less on the second mix and maybe a bit thinner, so it spreads a bit farther, which is why you need a bit less. And yeah, you don't need it as thick because you're looking just to overlay onto what you've got there already. And then it's a case of the same sort of motion, the same position that you started in, starting in one corner, moving over to the right, and then back to the beginning again. And just keep doing that until the ceiling is covered with a second coat. On this one, I am looking to maybe smooth out any of the sort of major unevenness, or try and get a few more of the trowel marks out. But overall, just trying to keep it as level as possible and not worrying too much about it being perfect. We'll pick that up in the next phase.
Okay, so second coat is on. I've tried to keep the second coat a little bit flatter than the first, but I've not chased myself around. It's nonsense trying to get it at this stage, so what I'm going to do is let this set up and then come back and we'll do a bit of flattening. In the meantime, what I am going to do is I'm going to take a paintbrush and just run in all my edges along there with a wet paintbrush. Just run them in, make them nice and crisp. So this is what I mean, wet paintbrush in the corners, just getting a nice crisp edge on the plaster, and then once that's done you can have a clean up and have a cup of tea. Just wait for it to set up.
During the flattening phase, I'm doing exactly what it says on the tin really, and that is flattening the ridges and trowel marks and sort of evening out any unevenness, so pushing plaster into some divots or just sort of moving it around. I'm not putting any more plaster on, I'm just using my trowel which I've wetted, and I've got a paintbrush with some water on it just to give it a a flick onto the ceiling just to loosen the surface up a little bit. I'm just pushing that round using any of the sort of plaster that ends up on the trowel to fill in any gaps. And just same process of starting in the same corner, moving over to the right, back across until I've done one pass.
So this is what it looks like after I've flattened it. It's looking flatter, I guess. So I'm going to leave that another 20 or so minutes, maybe 30. Go and get myself another cup of tea, and I'll come back, give it another go round with the trowel and the paintbrush. That up there is not a ridge, it's just where it's drying out a little bit on the join. Nothing to worry about. So yeah, let's go and make a cup of tea.
In the fourth stage, it's called, well, I'm calling it smoothing. And essentially, at this point, we're closing in on the final product. I'm using some water from a spray bottle, again, just to liven up the surface a little bit. But I'm just using my trowel again to go over the same area in the same way that I've done previously. Just at this point, we're not looking to move plaster. I'm just looking to fill in any final sort of crevices, get the surface really smooth. And the fifth stage is pretty much the same as the fourth stage, and I'm just using a bit of water again and getting as smooth a finish as possible. I'm going over it in exactly the same way, not moving plaster, just using the edge of the trowel to get a nice glossy mirror finish. And that's about it. I think some people call this the polishing stage. I'm calling it final smoothing, but that is essentially plastering complete. This is what the ceiling looked like the following day. It's already started to dry out a little bit. I had the window open. The plaster dries out with ventilation and airflow just as the water evaporates. I'm really pleased with the way that this has turned out. It's actually turned out flatter than I expected. Ceilings are not my forte, but the standard is good enough for me. So yeah, if you're looking for to save a bit of money, or maybe just give plastering a go, maybe choose a room that not loads of people are going to see, and have at it. I learned by trial and error, and now I'm getting results which I consider to be good. So yeah, give it a go.
So we have it. That was me plastering a ceiling in my spare room. I'm pretty happy with the result. All that's left to do now is celebrate. I've got a Brewdog Punk IPA, classic. Oh yeah. Remember, you stay safe, get some stuff done.